Okay, hey, what's going on, guys? It's Kurokku here again, and we're gonna be doing another series. And I know some people who keep saying, "Oh, when's there gonna be an episode 2, the scripting tutorial?" Well, I plan on making that in my next video, but I really want to make a marketing video because I feel like that's something no one really makes a video on, you know? Like, you don't really just go on YouTube and see, oh, how to market on Roblox, how to monetize your game, how to get your game front page, right? Like, there are those clickbait ways to do it, and the people who give tutorials on that are usually like the clickbait game people, where they just like say, oh, download this game, put some clickbait images on, and then just say the game is what it's not. Like, a good example is, let me find it. Let's say that. Yeah. Something like this where it shows like a school. Something like, just something not good. I don't really know how to I need to find an example, but if I find an example, sorry about that, whoa. If I find an example, I could definitely find an example of doing it like this if I just search up like hobby or something like that in the games. You get like escape the dentist, pen pineapple apple, stuff like that. You know, like the stuff that really everyone just kind of clickbaits on and gets players. Yeah, no, don't do that. Because one, you can get banned for clickbaiting, right? And two, clickbait games take way too much money to get front page, and they also really don't make you money back, right? So, a good example is my game Roblox Simulator, right? So what I thought when I was about to make the game was, I need to make something that is trending right now, right? So back then, simulator games were like the trend, right? And so what I decided to do was, I was looking at the simulator games and I was like, sprinting simulator, Titan simulator, weightlifting simulator. I think weightlifting simulator was the one that really got everything going, right? Well, yeah. So I was looking at Robux and I was like, Robux are always clickbait, right? Because whenever you see a game like Roblox Tycoon or something like that, the CTR is insane. And if you don't know what a CTR is, I'll show you right now, alright? So, sponsored games, yeah. Alright, so this is a CTR. It is the total impressions, right? It's the total impressions and then the total clicks per impressions. So 0.35% of the people have clicked this sponsor, and the sponsor has gotten 54 million impressions, alright? So, of course, having a 0.35% CTR is horrible. If you have that, your game, you need to fix something in your game, right? Or you need to fix, I wouldn't even say it's something in your game, because they don't even know what the game is. They're just looking at it. So, when I first started sponsoring on Roblox Simulator, right, I had a total CTR of like 2%. And that 2% is insane, if you didn't know that already. That means 2% of the people that are viewing it are actually clicking it. So, if I had, let's say, basically every 100 views, I'm getting at least 2 people clicking it, right? And that may not sound like a lot, but when you're getting like 10 million views, if you like pull out the calculator, I think that's 10 million. No, is that 10 million? Nope. 10 million, and then 2%. That's 200,000 clicks. And typically when someone clicks on a sponsor, it means they're gonna play the game. It means they're gonna wanna test it out. So when I ran my 50,000 Robux sponsor, right, on my Robux simulator, I got around 1,000 players within 10 minutes. It was insane. And I was like freaking out. I was kind of expecting it to happen though, because let's be honest, it's a simulator game and simulators were the trend. And typically most kids love Robux, right? And most kids always want Robux. So when they hear Robux simulator, they're gonna think, oh, it's basically gonna allow me to see that I can get rich too and look cool as well, right? And that's really just what you want to do. You want to really know what the players want in the community. And honestly, it took me a while to learn that. It really did take me a while to learn that. I was going around and I was thinking, oh, I was only thinking about myself when I was making games back then. I was only thinking, oh, I want to make games that I like and what I think are fun to make for me to play with on. Like back then I made a sword fighting game called Sword Fighting Frenzy, right? And you can get like swords in cases and stuff like that, and then you could sword fight people, and there was custom game modes, and I found that enjoyable for myself, right? Well, figures out players don't really like sword fighting, right? And the problem with that was, even if I had a high CTR, I wouldn't have gotten a lot of players staying in the game, because here's another thing. You really need to know how to balance it out, right? So if we go to our developer stats, right? Typically a good average playtime, so if you go to like your hourly, I like to go to my hourly most times, right? And I like to see what my hourly is, like when I get an hour. Typically 10 minutes is perfect, but 10 minutes won't really get you past, I think, 2,000-3,000 players, right? Even if you have a really high CTR of like 2% and you're getting a lot of players, 10 minutes will only get you like 3,000 players at most. And then the players that are in the game are leaving after 10 minutes, right? And then your players are dropping, and then you sort of stabilize at like 2,000 to 3,000 players in your game. And you really don't want that. That's the problem here. So, my friend, he made a Build to Survive game, and you guys probably saw it. It was front page with like 20,000 players. He had a 100-minute average playtime. So, imagine this, right? Imagine looking at my CTR, right? Or not CTR, whoops. Imagine looking at my average playtime, right? And adding another 0 to the 10. So he had 100 minutes. And that got him front page with over 20,000 players, yeah. And me? I mean, I only have like 300 players on my game right now. I dropped my game. If you want to see, yeah, see, when I first started sponsoring, here, I'll actually show you my daily. This is how it went for me, right? I did a sponsor, and I blew up, my game blew up, see? And these were my peaks, right? And I was like, having a lot of I was having a lot of players, sponsoring constantly, and I was happy, and I was making like 400k pending, so I was making a few 100,000 a day, right? And then the game started dying down because no matter how many times you update it even... Well, okay, let me rephrase that actually. I would update, right? But there's a point of which you update constantly and it just doesn't do good for you. So that's where I started hitting. I would be putting out 50,000 Robux sponsors, 100,000 Robux sponsors, and I'd only be getting past 700 players. Even if I updated and stuff like that, right? So, that's the problem. And that's also why you really don't want to do simulator games. They can make you a decent amount of money, but tycoon games make you a lot of money, and they give you a lot of place visits. Ugh, I can't speak today. Yeah, so That's a little tip on that. And now you're wondering, oh, sponsors. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, aren't ads better? It's really biased, honestly. Some people say, oh, sponsors are better than ads. Some people say ads are better than sponsors. It really depends who you're talking to. So on desktop, I like to do a 1 Robux per impression thing. So the rates right now are horrible. So when I say rates, I mean how many Robux per impressions. If 1 Robux can get you 150 impressions, then the rates are amazing, right? Or the rates are average, I'd say. I'd say like amazing rates are when you're spending 1 Robux for sponsors and you're getting 170 impressions. 150 are average, but typically if you really want a lot of impressions, you want to wait until it's like 170 impressions or 200. If you get 200 impressions for desktop, then that day is an amazing day to sponsor, right? But today is bad because it's like below 100 even, and that's just not good. On tablet's a pretty good one to sponsor on, and the rates are even worse. And this is because it's on the weekend. Everyone sponsors on the weekend. But then you're going to see what the phone is, right? And you're like, wow, the phones are actually pretty good. The phones can get up to 300 impressions per 1 Robux. And you're going to be thinking, that's amazing. I'm going to put my ads on phone, right? Well, no. Here's the problem. From experience, when you sponsor on phone, you get nowhere near as much players as you do on tablet or desktop. For some reason, like, phone sponsoring is cursed. I don't know why, but you don't get any players on phone, trust me. You do not want to sponsor on phone. Like, this is a no-go. You never want to sponsor on phone. You only want to sponsor on tablet and desktop. Only tablet and desktop. And that is only when the tablet and desktop rates are good, right? And then we go to ads. And I've been having actually pretty consistent, like, pretty decent ad rates. Like, the CTR, this is my total CTR. Before it was at 2% as well, and it kind of dropped to 1%, but still, 1%'s not that bad either. Anyways, like, got some clickbait looking ads, but it still correlates. That's the thing. You want your clickbait to correlate with the game, you know? You don't want to have, like, escape the zipline or something like that, or zipline to escape, or slide down 1,000 miles. Like, those type of clickbaits are what's gonna get you banned, right? So you want to, when I say clickbait, I mean, like, something that kind of grabs their attention when they look at an ad, because, like, that looks, in my opinion, I think that looks pretty cool when you see an ad there, and that kind of makes me want to click it, right? And that's what a few 100,000 other people thought. So, typically what I do, if you haven't seen already, I normally like to do a 50,000 Robux sponsor on desktop, and then a 25,000 Robux sponsor on a square ad, and then a 25,000 Robux sponsor on a banner ad. Sometimes I like to do 30,000s for these guys and 50,000s, and that's like an extra bid. And if I'm really going for a mass sponsor, I'm usually typically putting out like 100,000 on desktop, 50,000 on tablet, and then I'll probably do like a 30,000 on here and 30,000 on here, and that'll give me a few thousand players. But that's only when you're doing like a new game and you know the game is gonna do good for a fact. And when I knew my game was gonna do good for a fact was when I wasn't even sponsoring my Roblox simulator, right? Like, this was before I even sponsored it. I had like 30 people playing, and I don't even know where the 30 players came from. Like, I don't even know where they came from. They were just there. And that's how I know it does good, because when you're getting random players like that, your game's gonna do good. Now, that's not always a guarantee, but that's just kind of like from my experience, because that happened on my my other game that I was working on with Value King, the Ghosting Hour. We got random players there, stuff like that. What else? Yeah, you need to know your community as well. You really need to know what everyone wants. Like, you need to know what's trending and everything. And it's not something you're gonna learn overnight. Like, this is me, this is years of me experiencing on Roblox. Like, this is just experience with me on Roblox, just checking, like, oh, players like these type of games, players like these type of games. And also, remember this. To get players on your game, a really helpful tip is bright colors and rendered characters. Like, see how like bright neon in a rendered character, rendered, all these are rendered. And when I say rendered, it means like they just got a typical Roblox character, they went in Blender or Cinema 4D or Photoshop, and they just went on a 3D modeler mode, modeled the characters a bit more, and then added a bit of light, and then they photoshopped it, and then they added a background, and then, yeah. And bright colors always attract players, typically the younger ones, but actually it sometimes actually gets older players as well. Meep City is pulling a meme thing on their players, and typically memes also attract players, but it's kind of a cheap way of doing it, and you don't really see much people like using memes for ads or even icons and thumbnails. You really just don't. But yeah, those are just a little bit of tips right there. Now to monetizing, right? Because when you want to monetize your game, you want to make sure you're milking as much Robux as you can without making the game pay to play, right? Because otherwise you're going to get a lot of hate and everyone's going to be like, it's pay to play, I don't like the game. You have to pay to win, I don't like it. Here's what I did. ×2 Robux. VIP. The VIP, I really just made it crap. I just gave them like +2 Robux in the game and a VIP chat tag, right? And then ×2 strength, no one really buys it. ×2 health, no one really buys it. Auto rebirth, I've been getting a lot of hate on that because players were thinking that when you buy it, it automatically rebirths you and stuff like that. No. It's when you hit 1,000 Robux in my game, and then once you hit 1,000 Robux in my game, it automatically rebirths you rather than like going into the tab and pressing it, right? I'm getting a lot of sales on it though. Anyways, yeah, so you really want to know that. Also, if you really know what you're doing, here's what I'm gonna show you, and this is hopefully gonna help you guys out, right? Most of my sales have came from this one dev product, like almost half of my sales. I've made 200,000. That doesn't seem right. Because I made like 5 million, almost 5 million Robux last month. Oh, this is this month. Yeah, so this month I've already made 200,000 Robux this month off of just that one dev product, alright? And then also what I did in my game was when you get Robux, alright? So here's actually, I'm just gonna play the game real quick for you guys to get somewhat of the gist of how I do it, right? So when I go ahead and play my game, right? I'm in my game. I give that disclaimer because I really don't want players to be calling me a scammer because this is such a bad, this is such a clickbait idea. Anyways, look at the UIs. The UIs are all out on the screen, right? Most times when you keep a UI outside, like in your screen, and you're not hiding it somewhere, and you're straight up just making it so they legit just click it once, and as soon as they click the UI once and it prompts it, that's what's gonna get you the most sales. If you even add like open up a shop button and it opens a shop to go in that, your sales are actually gonna surprisingly drop a little bit more. But here's what you really don't want to do. You don't really want to make a shop like, imagine like a building, imagine a building right here, like a shop building. You don't want to add a shop here and let players go in the shop and talk to an NPC and allow them to buy things for Robux there, unless you really know what you're doing. There's only some occasions when you want to do that, actually. Like on Abstract Alex's game when he did Sword Burst 2, and he made this shop there. That's because he had a central hub, but still, there is a button where you could do a boosting thing, like boost your cash and stuff like that, right? You always want to make the dev products right there for the player, right? So what I did was I added +5 speed, because as you get bigger, you can see that they're moving way slower, right? They're moving super slow as they get big. So to fix that, they buy +5 speed for 15 Robux. And they don't realize it, but it's like, oh wow, I move a little bit faster, but I'm gonna buy it again. And then they're gonna keep buying it, they're gonna keep buying it. Next thing you know, they spent over 100 Robux on it, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to make it so that you're giving players a small amount of what they're getting for a small amount of Robux, because that'll make them buy it repeatedly, right? Now the jump power didn't get as many sales because players really had no use in jumping most times. For me, I kind of just use it to get on top of these walls and just hide out. My large Robux storm, so I had a small, a medium, and a large. A small one is cheap, it's like 25 Robux, right? And then visual aesthetics. Visual aesthetics are what you want. So what happens is it shoots a lightning bolt out of my player, and it makes every player's screen flash, right? And then it notifies at the top saying who bought it. Players love attention, right? That's weird. I need to fix that. Players love attention. They love when they're being called out in the server for doing something, right? And then to top it off, technically I'm giving them Robux, but I'm giving everyone in the server Robux, which is what's gonna make them want to be like, oh hey, I want more Robux, so they're gonna buy it again, and they're gonna buy like a large Robux storm, right? And then the Robux is gonna fall from the sky, and they're gonna be like, okay, let's collect it as much as we can. They're gonna be like, wow, there's a lot of Robux. And then little do they know, the Robux does despawn, so they're only getting about like a few Robux out of it, and then they're gonna buy it again and again and again. What you don't want to do in games is make it so that they can just directly buy plus currency. That's gonna drop your sales and your profits by far. You want to make it so that you can get the most indirect way of giving them currency in a game. For me, I just dropped Robux from the sky, and that was such an indirect way of giving players Robux that it made me so much money from it. And now, a cheap way to do it is like, okay, now they want to TP the Robux to them, and it costs a lot of Robux, and they're like, wow, that's a lot, but it's worth it. Bam, it starts TPing the Robux to them, and they're like, wow, I'm getting huge, this is awesome. And then, bam, the Robux despawned, and then they're like, oh, I'm too late. And then they're gonna buy it again, right? And then they're gonna buy it again. They're gonna buy more Robux, and then they're gonna buy more TP Robux to you, right? They're gonna buy it again, and then they're like, wow, I'm getting bigger again, I'm getting bigger, I'm getting bigger. And that is how I made most of my money from the game, because of putting indirect ways of doing it. These two dev products are the same thing as just doing like plus 15, plus 100 Robux, plus like 200 Robux. Except I just made them pay over 300 Robux to get like this many, right? And then they're gonna be like, oh, I'm a rebirth, ready? They're gonna rebirth, and then they're gonna be like, well, if this stops, yeah. But watch. Okay, so sooner or later my Robux is gonna stop, right? And then they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna buy another storm, and then they're gonna do it again. And now what I like to do is a nuke everyone. This one's expensive, but it actually got a lot of sales on it, surprisingly, and it was worth it. So yeah, that's the game, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit more information on that. If you have any questions, make sure to post that in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out.